Welcome, everyone. I'm super excited today to have a guest who thank you so much, John. I think it's been many years since you've been here with us.
Uh, Two or three, I can't
Oh, great.
remember, but
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's been a while. Time goes by so fast. It could be 5 years, but
Yeah. Right. So, and I think I met you during COVID. I think you were one of the people that Spirit told me in the beginning of COVID to do a summit, and I'm like, what? And it just was like this looking out into a whole new realm to connect with people. So, thank you so much for being. I want to just note the window behind you is real, right?
it is a real window, but not now. It's
Not right now. Okay.
that is actually Lama Foundation, and that's their main dome. That's in New Mexico. It's where my spiritual teacher is buried. Marshall Samuel Lewis is buried on that mountain. Lama has been around since the mid 60s. It's one of the oldest continuous spiritual communities that checks out all the religions, and they have guests from all the different world religions. And Ram
Oh,
Dass helped start it, and a dear friend who passed away recently, Asha Greer, she started it back in the 65, I believe. Maybe and that's where Be Here Now was printed. That book,
really?
yes, Be Here Now was printed. They're the original printers of
Oh my
Be Here Now, of all things, and a bunch of few other little books like that.
Wonderful. Well, it's very radiant. That's why I was like, curious, because people will, actually what I think is funny is people will take a picture of their room when it's clean and then put it
Yeah.
up when they're on, just so they don't have to clean their room. But oh, that's why. Well, I lived in New Mexico for 6, 7 years, and it is truly an land of enchantment,
It's
right?
totally the land of enchantment. So good to see you again.
Good. So I'm going to introduce you guys a little bit officially to John, but I think we have a super fascinating and relevant topic for you today because everything's unfolding. We just entered the year of the fire horse, right? We're going from years and years of water and earth energies, which is kind of mud, to this incredible fire and air that's going to be repeating through the eclipses. And we know that we're in the metamorphosis and we know that our consciousness is rising. And so after the snake year, we got to shed. Now we are preparing to really move fast. And I was telling John that this samskaras. So if you don't know what a samskara is, you're going to learn. And I'm very interested to talk to you about karma because this is the karma doctor. So you can find John at karmadoctor.com. And actually, I don't know if you remember, but I found you not during COVID. I found you through my friend Al. And
Oh yeah, Al, I
remember
forgot to.
Big Al, yeah.
Yeah,
And he's passed now, but he was one of
I
the
heard that.
few.
Yeah, he was a sweet man.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, he's passed many years now, but at the time I was in a big crisis and I felt like I didn't trust most healers. I didn't want to just randomly pick somebody and there wasn't even close to as many people as there are now out there, right? So I went to him because he was one of the few people I truly truly trusted. And he said, "Oh, you got to go see John." And I was like, oh, thank goodness. And then Chris came and saw you, and it was really profound. So I really want everyone to look at your work because you embody it, you live it. You don't just work with people and teach it, but like you said, you're writing research papers, you travel all around the world, you're embodying these principles. And so as a healer, a lecturer, spiritual teacher, practicing holistic healing arts and ancient spiritual traditions for more than 4 decades, a doctor of chiropractic, Tai Chi Chuan, Native American ceremony, and has been a practicing Sufi since 1972. That in itself is a whole other show that is super, super interesting. Um, and so is that pronounced chic or shake?
Shake, shake. Yeah, that's shake. Yeah. Mm.
And that is what? A
It's a
title?
title. It's a title. It actually I think means something like old man, which as I just turned 75 on Valentine's Day, it definitely qualifies as an old man now. V Village elder, the spiritual teacher, the sheikh,
Right,
it's
the
I've been
wise one.
actually been a formal Sufi teacher teaching classes in Sufism since 1975, which is just hard. That's 50 years. I can't believe it. It's just crazy.
I know. Oh my goodness. Well, I'm not quite there yet, but I'm up there too, and I don't really care about my age, and it comes as a surprise too, like, oh wow, that's interesting. But we were talking beforehand about like we're not even ready to stop yet. Doesn't matter how old we are. We're like, what's next? What's next? It's the most exciting time we've ever
Yeah,
been.
this is one of the most exciting times in my life for sure,
Right,
so.
everything. So one of the things that you are a master of, and of course has been part of your talents that have come forward that you help people with, you teach, but has also opened other doors on your path of like studying all these different things, which isn't that common really in our sort of American self-help realm. You don't meet a lot of people who become Sufi. You'll have people who become other things, but it's that ability to perceive the human aura and identify karmic patterns. So, is it Narodha? Narodha?
Naroda is a
Narodha.
state of consciousness. Naroda actually is kind of similar to nirvana or nibbana, and it simply means the cessation of the vibrations of the samskaras. In fact, Patanjali's Yoga Sutras starts out yoga, uh, chitta, vritti, nirodha. Yoga, chitta, vritti, nirodha, which means yoga is basically quieting the mental stuff, the impressions in our light body. Um, so I make a differentiation. A lot of people work on the energy body, so to speak, or the emotional aura, or attachments or various things. To me, uh, karma comes straight out of what I would call the light body, which is fundamentally a different level of beingness. So when we're born, the samskaras, the vibrations or songs of the karmas, come into your physical body and begin to emanate various patterns into existence. So we're all, to some degree, trapped in repetitive karmic cycles or repetitive karmic songs. And our light body acts as a magnet that attracts circumstances and conditions that because there's an an urge for these to resolve themselves at some level.
Mm.
So
So they
it
come up, they get triggered in order to resolve them, right?
right, yeah.
Not to taunt you and torture you and punish you, and you're not worthy and you're not good enough, and all the other stories we attach
The,
to our
one of the
blocks, so to
one of
speak.
the very biggest problems with the idea of karma is that karma is punishment.
Exactly.
And so, really, karma is trauma. When somebody says, well, what if you hurt somebody else? Well, if you do something to somebody else, it's actually you're damaging your light body. You that's more traumatizing. Go out and kill a few people. No, please don't, and see what that does to you. It will break your soul to pieces. It's just unbelievably damaging to oneself to have any even a harmful thought. The person that you have the harmful thought towards may never feel the harmful thought. They might not process it or know it or see it, but it immediately affects your consciousness. Some hatred or some snide or jealous remark or something like that. That's why there's great beauty in having kind speech. And no, we can't really replace the extraordinary need for kindness and respect and graciousness in life. Um,
Definitely. Well, that's what namaste is essentially, right?
right.
Is acknowledging that. And I study with the Mayan elders, and they have a phrase called in la ketch, alakin, and it means I am another you and you are another me.
That's
And
couldn't be said better.
they actually say it like my Mayan elder I study with. If he texts me, if he emails me, or if we meet on Zoom or in person, he says like hello, it's in la catch. And when we say goodbye, it's in la catch. And so you're basically telling everything says, hello, I'm another you, you're another me. Okay, now let's talk. Like that right up front in your face to have that acknowledgement. And we've all been taught do unto others the way you want them to do unto you. And yet we do not see that modeled. and therefore it's the inner, you said something like the inner part, this part has an urge to resolve itself because these things, I don't want to say hurt us, disconnected. Would that be a good word? You describe it. What does this do when we create this, like you said, a fractured soul
The-
from,
the- According to the Buddhists, which I sort of concur, and to some degree Sufis and other people, the soul is like a mirror. So it reflects what you bring before it. So if you bring um, hatred before the mirror, you emanate hatred. If you bring love, you emanate love. Some people have this problem where they kind of bring a fractured mirror in front of them, and they say, oh, so this is where I'm broken, and this is where I'm broken, and this is where, and they get lost in their own process of being broken.
right?
The samskaras and the whole actually affect us in in that way almost directly. Um, and so but I should talk about the light body a little bit in my journey. I started this my spiritual path. I started in when I was 14. I started meditating. I was born seeing auras, and then I became a chiropractor at some point. And this guy came in to see me, and he was 27. His low back was worn out, and he had a brown haze in his aura. And I said, "Damn, I always see that in people that have bad jobs, bad pay, bad bosses." So I did a muscle test. I said, "Is this person carrying the energy of slavery?" Because he was a ditch digger for the city of Tulsa, and that's where I was living, and still living there at this time. I was for a long time. I wasn't living there, and he said I used to have these terrible night terrors of being a slave and trying to escape, and they'd start beating me. I'd wake up, and I was afraid to go to sleep. My parents had to take me to the shrink. I said, "Whoa, damn, looks like a bad case of post-traumatic slave lifetime syndrome."
I love that
Yeah.
slave lifetime. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So he said, I'm sure that's the diagnosis." He said, how do you get rid of bad karma?" And I said, "Well, usually 20, 30 years, full-time meditation, a good teacher, a lot of luck. And as Buddha said, some become enlightened and some don't." you know, so 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 um so he's leaning a little heavy on the, when you're a chiropractor, it's like, is he a quack or is he a saint, right? So he's
Yeah.
leaning a little heavy on the saint side. He said, "Is there any kind of chiropractic adjustment that could straighten out my back arm?" And no, I'm sorry, 20, 30 years. So he was also a staunch Catholic, had a beautiful wife, two beautiful kids, dropped out of high school to get married. It was the very
Yeah.
end, didn't want to work in an office or anything anyway. So and he was good-hearted, so good-hearted this guy was, and there he was slaving away. And he said, "Is this some sort of punishment? Was I a terrible slave master in another life? And now I have to pay the piper." He actually said, "I have to pay the piper and keep incarnating as a slave until I pay off all this bad karma." I said, "Well, I believe with all my heart that bad karma is just bad trauma, and that you formed this identification with maybe your whole family was enslaved, which is completely the case, and many, many people have had lifetimes. And then you become identified with being a slave. You become identified with being um, of a low, low status as a human being, and not working for money, but just to survive, and so on and so forth. And so um, he said, "Well, is there any way to get rid of bad karma besides meditation? Because my knees are shot." I can't even kneel for mass anymore, right? He was like, he was really, I kept trying to talk him into it, and he kept trying to talk him. And I said, "Well, we're kind of like gardens. If you plant lots of flowers in the gardens, it doesn't exactly get rid of the weeds, but in general, it keeps the weeds from taking over the whole garden." For one thing,
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
we all know
Exactly.
we all know a few people where the weeds have definitely won. So I said education. I kept thinking, you get training. Oh, you want to be a carpenter? That's good. You get training to become a carpenter. And I said, if I do carpentry in my basement on the weekends for a couple of years, 2 or 3 years, will that kind of turn me into a carpenter? I said, try 10 or 12 years. You know, it's not that quick. And I said, the problem is it's the light body. I said, well, what about positive thinking? Well, yeah, but try 10 or 12 years because it takes that long to imprint the light body. So what is the light body? And this is a very important point. The light body is in every tradition. And it seems to be like the clothes of the soul that brings in this information. I said, is there really such a thing as reincarnation? I said, sure as heck looks like it. I said,
Oh,
was your children blank when they were born? He said, oh no, they came fully loaded, fully loaded. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. There are no blank slate there. There's this whole person right there with a whole personality that you can feel them, and yeah, you have to instant love and all that other stuff. So, um, and I said there's all kinds of research done on that with children that have spontaneous memories of other lives. This guy named Ian Stevenson, he did all the research on that. Really brilliant. He's passed on now, but he did that research for 50 years, over 720 cases. When he flew to the town they lived, everything they said was 100%. It was like totally exactly the way they said it, names of streets, names of people. We remember that guy. Yeah, he got shot or he got, something like that. So, um, there is a reality that we're not born blank. And our light body, he said, well, what is it? I said, well, it's not your energy body. That's your bioelectrical system. You want to fix your energy body? 3 meals, that's good. It's important. 3 meals a day, good night's sleep, low stress lifestyle, exercise, intermittent fasting, watch your carbs, whatever. Uh,
yeah,
you know,
yeah, yeah.
um, get some acupuncture, do some pranayama, some yogic breathing, martial arts training. It's not your emotional aura, love in the heart, fear in the gut, uh, emotions of the moment, then you have unfinished emotions like unfinished grief or disappointment or fear, or it's always somebody with a lot of unfinished anger that would love to finish it on anybody who gets close to them. And of course, Um, uh, so 3 meals a day, good night's sleep, low stress life, that helps the emotions a lot. Counseling, we have that. Some people, maybe take some medicine. It's better than blowing your brains out. I always think there's a price to pay for Western medicine, but
Oh, big price. Too
yeah,
big of a price.
sometimes
Wow.
it's too big of a price.
It's
Exactly.
way too big.
But that's what some people got. That's all they got. Then there's your mental aura, and your mental aura is interesting. It has two templates, basically a yellow one, which I call the fear mind. So I'm giving you a little bit of anatomy here, but the fear mind is for executive functioning. It's a certain color of kind of cold yellow, and when it's wisdom, it turns gold. When it's curiosity, it turns amber or orange.
Oh,
And those
how
are
fun.
expansive states. Uh, but it's usually fear yellow. And so it's the monkey mind. It's always trying to outguess the future and process the past. It never just leaves you alone. The coulda, shoulda, woulda brain. It's like, I better do this. I should have done that. Next time, I'm going to tell them how I really feel.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, next
I
time.
have to. I
Yeah.
have to.
And so um, the nature of the yellow part of the brain is one, and then you have the blue mental aura, which is about creativity and being here now. And it's like dancing with a paintbrush on canvas, or singing, or chanting, or dancing, or making love, or surfing, or swimming. What me worry? Life's a ride. Just be here now, coast on through. So all of these are aspects of our being. All respond really well to 3 meals a day, good night's sleep.
Right. Yeah.
But also, so the thing that you have to understand is you can change these auras immediately. If I say be happy for 5 minutes, okay, kind
Yeah.
of salt yourself up. I'm gonna say make a plan for tomorrow. Well, that's executive functioning. That's yellow. If I say let's groove out and dance a little bit, blue. Or let's do creative art or something, blue. If I say send energy to your hands, we can measure it on a galvanic skin response. So your energy body, your mental aura, and your um, emotional aura, you can change immediately. But if I say make your light body light up, can't do it unless you've had, like 20 years meditation or something. So changing your light body is difficult, very difficult to change that light body because we don't have consciousness awoke at that level. And the
Mhm.
Hindu system, they talk about 4 or 5, depending on which version, states of consciousness. We have waking, which is this kind of consciousness. And then we have dreaming, which is subtle consciousness. And then we have deep sleep, which is unconscious. And then after about 20 years meditation, a good teacher, a lot of luck, things like that, um, another kind of consciousness dawns that's called in the Hindu system Turiya, which means fourth. And this is the consciousness of the light body,
Mm,
you see. And the
mm,
consciousness of the light body, when that awakens, it's a whole new world. It's a whole new universe. That's when you're peeking through the veils. That's when you're able to operate from soul power instead of mental power or concentration or emotional whatever. It's that's separates us all. It's like that
uh,
turiya consciousness, which is deep absorption, deep samadhi, deep, but it's another layer. And so uh, the ideas of the Hindu ideas were if you meditate a lot enough, you can quiet the light body. You can quiet that light body and stop it from emanating karmas into existence. And
right.
to
Okay.
really do that completely, like go into nirvana, is kind of a snuff job in a way. You're like, I'm leaving. I don't, So in the Western mysticism, there's a big difference between Western and Eastern ideas. Eastern ideas, this is all illusion. This is just bullshit, basically. We might as well get out of here and not return, you know, which which is looks correct on the surface. From a Sufi Christian, more there's a purpose in life. We don't know what that purpose is, but we didn't create ourselves, and the Creator brought us here, and we have a mission or a purpose, and that this is the
Yeah.
way God knows God's self through our lives, through you know, uh, our stories,
I-
through our experiences, and through the resolution of different things. And so um, samskaras are a vibration in your light body of various traumas. Okay. And the idea in Hinduism is that you want to quiet this. And the word there is you quiet the samskaras, you go into a state of nirodha, which is um, this ability to quiet the light body. And getting that consciousness at that turiya level allows you to quiet the light body to stop yourself from emanating various karmas into existence. So, uh, in general, in Hinduism, though, they're trying to escape, but and so it looks like nihilism or a kind of total shutdown, like life is a delusion, an illusion, like we're caught up and the body is sort of a
Bad.
headset and bad, and so
Yeah.
on and so forth. Um, from a Sufi perspective, um, the universe wants us to be somebody. you
Exactly.
know,
Exactly.
in the basic understanding of our condition in Sufism is primarily that we're in the womb of infinite compassion being unfolded by the umbilical cord of personal mercy. So that
Wow.
we go from womb to womb. We go from our mother's womb to this womb to the next womb, and the womb keeps getting bigger.
Oh, wow.
It's pretty interesting, isn't it?
I
The,
love
the
it.
word Rahman and Rahim come from the root word womb. And so the universe is plugged into us and wants us to be somebody, that this is, it's and and so there's something beyond just the resolution of various karmas, so to speak.
Yeah.
Karma is
Well,
very
let me
law-like.
Can I
Yeah,
interrupt you for a minute? I
please.
mean,
Yeah.
it's so good. It's so much information. So I want to make sure that people are following along. But like the idea that we are meant to escape means that it's bad that we're here, right? Means that it's a punishment or we're condemned or whatever we want to believe. But if it's like, I've got to do this to get over that, to get out of here, without that belief that you're here to be someone, you're here to develop something, you're here to create something, you're here to enjoy this, is really profound. Because when we look at where our ideas of who we are, what life is, how we create happiness, how we get what we want, if we're, caught up in the materialism, or if we're seeking a deeper connection to source, or what does it mean to come connect to your heart. And there were a few things you said, like unfolded with the umbilical cord. It's so profound because in the Mayan wisdom, everything's a spiral. And we are evolving in a spiral, and time is a spiral, and your tears are a spiral, and the wind is a spiral, right? So there's this unfolding like that, like the umbilical cord. And then they call time space Nacht, and it means the big illusion. Time space Nacht. It's not time space. To them it means the big illusion, right? What we're in, what
Right.
we're in. But we are here as a divine and a human. They knew that when they were born, and that they had a purpose immediately. Not most of the current Maya, but the ancient Maya. And so their entire existence was, every person, whether you're the king or the priest or the queen or the person who makes the bread, you are an important puzzle piece to this. And we want to make sure that
Totally.
you do your spiritual purpose. So we look at when you were born, right? And we figure out who you're meant to be, and we support that. And you're inside the illusion. Yeah, we already know that. But guess what? We get to be here. We get to be happy. But remember the ego. So everything of theirs was like, watch out for that ego, right? As you're walking that path. I love the different cosmovisions, the different perspectives, and how profoundly it would change how you perceive karma.
Absolutely. So a lot of people also feel that karma is kind of like um, you're going to school. There's lessons to learn and stuff like that. I like a bit better my own self. I like that life is an unfolding adventure in beingness and becomingness. And
Yeah.
and and that the universe is both enfolding us and unfolding us at the same time.
Oh,
So we're
wow.
being enfolded, cherished, held, accommodated for, but we're also being unfolded.
Yeah.
And so those things are and and so traumas get located in the light body. So maybe this guy in another life, or, you know, more than likely since he was 5 years old when he was having these dreams about being a slave, which he barely knew what a slave was. Um, his scene was was I a terrible slave master in another life, and I have to learn the lesson, pay the piper. No, probably his family was traumatized because they were captured in war or something, and everyone had a much worse life after that, and it wasn't like some bad payoff or something. So so then uh, what comes, though, is this idea that there's a lot of suppression built in to the idea of a lot of Hindu and Buddhist spiritual practice. That Nirodha is sort of suppression, or stopping the mind, stopping the thought process, or a kind of special state of disassociation, a blankness, or annihilation. Um, you know, um, and so a lot of people make a huge mistake on the spiritual path, that somehow you're supposed to become less and less. And I would say that's true when it comes to the ego, but the ego is the activity, it's not the entity,
Exactly.
it's not the self. And so there's in Sufism, there's this idea of baka and fana. Fana is annihilation of the false self, or abandoning the false self because you become so enchanted by the real self. and
Yeah.
and so in my work, I work a lot with helping people to move into their authentic self, their what I call their dharma self. And the dharma self has all kinds of, it's not shaped by the samskaras, the past stuff. It's shaped by um, your intention, your already enlightened self. Since there's no time at some fundamental level, you tap into the power of your light body. So there's different layers of the light body, which is an interesting thing. And so the light body is sometimes called the astral, or there's other names of it in the Buddhist situation. I'm mostly familiar with the Sufi names, which, I'm more studied in. Um, so the one of the bodies that carries karma is the Jism al Latif, which is the subtle body of the chakras. That's like, and it carries the samskaras into this life pretty strongly. Um, and then the next layer is called the jismal mithali, which is the imaginal body. Now, this body is the one that subsist in dreams and also as ghost after death and other kinds of, happy hunting grounds or, the other one. And that one also carries karma. Okay.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I've been talking about the imaginal cell of the butterfly, right, in the caterpillar that
Right.
knows to make the cocoon. It knows the butterfly, it knows who it is. The caterpillar doesn't, but it's inside. And this whole year of the fire, everything that's been coming through for about 6 months is that we're awakening that imaginal cell within us that knows, like you say, our enlightened self, or knows our mission, or knows what we're meant to become. We might not be aware of it, but that imaginal cell, it starts to talk, right? And it kind of gives you that inner instruction to go make a cocoon, or go change homes, or leave this relationship, or something. Is that anything related to what you're talking about?
Absolutely. I mean, so as the light body purifies itself, it begins to stop. It's really the releasing. Naroda means something like the releasing of compulsion, the releasing of the false self, um, and it's not annihilation in the sense that uh, it's not mystical fog or metaphysical annihilation, but it's an opening into the fullness of being. So all unstable patterns tend to fall away. Um, what remains is uh, nothing but the soul's agency. So the way I think of it is think of karma as a whirlpool in the river. The river's, kind of has no beginning, has no end, just keeps flowing like consciousness all the time. And then there's a whirlpool. Well, if you're able to change the whirlpool, then the water flows even better. You see what I'm saying? If you got 50,000 whirlpools, then, it makes for a pretty disturbed river, in a certain sense.
Right, we're seeking that feeling of flow, because
Yeah.
and when you feel stuck, all right, in a pattern, you're going around in that's, yeah, that's very, very significant. Is there an opposite to karma?
Dharma, of course, would be the Hindu word, which
Right, yeah.
which is
Is
so the
that
Dharma,
grace?
excuse
Is that
me.
Would that be the same as grace?
Um, the Dharma self is motivated by grace. The Dharma self is what I call the Dharma self, or in Sufism we call it the Jism al-Nur. It's the pure, doesn't care karma. It's beyond karma, and
Mhm.
it's one layer below the ultimate Jism al-Hakiki, which is the ultimate being, which is you abiding with truth at all times. So,
Um,
and these are all achievable with some effort and a great deal of submission uh, in some sense, like letting the universe. What was it that Rumi said? I tasted the water from your spring, then I let the current take me.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
so there's a like, oh, that's good, and then there's like a surrender and let the current take you.
Right. Well,
So
and you have we'll talk about your Rumi app also, but there's a Rumi poem, I don't remember it exactly, that was very profound, just opened something for me. And you were talking about that unfolding and infolding, and it was something like you can't know the whole truth right now, because once you know one truth, then the next opens. And so this idea of, like, I want to plan for the 10 years out, I want to know right now, that fear mind, like you said, wants that certainty. Yet if we don't know and embrace the truth of whatever we're currently in, the next doesn't make any sense to us.
not at all, and like the ground beneath us keeps moving pretty steady, I think, and man proposes, God disposes, one of one of Gandhi's favorite sayings. Um, um, you know, I think that much of life, the joy of life, comes from being with what is and just allowing yourself to flow with what is. And when you get stuck somewhere, then there's maybe a lesson or something to learn to get unknotted, where somewhere where your samskaras kind of knock you off your uh, pedestal or something like that, but ultimately, um, you know, what is there that's not completely wonderful and mysterious about our existence? It's just so enchanting.
Definitely.
And if you're not trapped in those cycles, there's a freedom of the soul, a spiritual liberty, as Inyaye Khan talks about, that's profoundly beautiful, in that there's a sense of being able to be with all the things that arise and not fall into reactivity or a state of resistance. And it's the the whole idea of destiny and all these other sorts of things. um, I think we have to set aside to some degree. At the same time, desire is a beautiful thing. And
Mm.
so if you're able to, um, agency is another thing. It's like I notice when people have weak-based chakras, they can't do anything with their life. They're living on the streets. It's a three, 2 or 3 on a 10-point scale. It's like, will I eat tonight or not? Um, uh, 9 or 10 on a 10-point scale, you're changing the world. You're like doing something that is rare and incredible. So agency increases the stronger your light body is, the more clear it is from the samskaras. And so this is a path to becoming more and more of who you really are, not less and less. And one of the biggest problems is people think that the spiritual path is about, um, some form of shrinking yourself. Um, Take humility, for instance. Sounds good. I think humility is a beautiful thing, but it takes a lot of humility to put on a show like this and put yourself vulnerable to people and to various other things. It takes to get up in front of other people and lead them to a different way of thinking about things. That's a humble act in me. It's like, you know, um, people that say, "Well, I don't know if I could ever do that." I say, "You lack humility."
Isn't that interesting? Because humility is a really, I'm so glad you brought that up because it's like another rabbit hole we could go down. But I think I ignored the concept of it for so long because I wasn't really raised very religious, but I lived in a mostly Christian society, right?
Right,
And the idea that, to be humble means, like you grovel, that you're no good. You're like, oh, I'm not worthy, and everything's better than you. And I had no self-esteem. I was trying to believe I was good enough. And how do I be humble and do that at the same time? So confusion with that, but Spirit asks that more and more on my journey, to be humble. And it's been such a strange thing to redefine personally. And I think that when you cross something you said, like when you cross the bridge to realize being humble is I'm fabulous and so are you. Everything's the same. Like we're all fabulous. Oh my goodness, I love doing this. I'm going to do this. Oh, you should do that. And there's not this comparison and the trauma that we have around it. Instead of being the meek that will inherit the earth, that's been interpreted as if you're pathetic and poor and you don't take anything and you don't survive and have a good life, then you're
right.
more worthy. But
Doubt that's what Jesus meant. Doubt that a lot. Think Jesus meant something different.
yeah, exactly.
You know.
Yeah.
I think he, uh, really meant something about a softening inside of their heart. You know, meaning you make yourself not pushing everyone out of the way. You make yourself receptive and open and soft-hearted. But
Mm.
another thing, so there are some things that can change the light body. Um, uh, some emotions can change the light body fairly quickly without the 20 years meditation. Good teacher, a lot of luck. Um, so to go on with my little story, he said, well, I explained to him what the light body was, and then he said, and then I said, I said, here's something you can put in your pocket. I came up with an idea for him to try. I said, I've been teaching meditation since I was 25, and I have these camps that people come to, and I started that community in 1940. Yeah, 1982, and it's been going on well now for 42, 3 years this spring, and in the spring, I have this student I see, and then I see her again in the fall camp because we have a couple of camps a year. And I notice, whoa, your aura has completely changed in a really good way. What did you do? Because I was curious as she changed her light body, you know? And I said, did you do like a 40-day retreat? I was super curious as to what this miraculous, and she was beaming with beingness. And she said, I didn't do a 40-day retreat. I took my son and 9 other Eagle Boy Scouts to the boundary waters between the United States and Canada. And we had full immersion in nature for 3 weeks. We didn't see anybody. We were just off the grid, just the sun and the moon and stuff. So uh, fully, get out of the artificial life and go to the real life, the true life, and return to that for a little while. And that will refresh the soul, and that can change the light body with a little, minimal effort in that kind of situation,
Beautiful.
which is a good thing. And then he said, is there any fast way to change the light body? I said, there is, but you won't like it. It's like, bad trauma. Those boys that go to war and come back, it trashes their light body. They're never the same. Never is a lot bad word, but it takes a long time to get past watching people die and killing them yourself and stuff like
Oh,
that. It's just
yeah.
like war is terrible, bad karma. And so on and so forth. It's almost nobody can fight in a war and not walk away with bad karma. Um,
Mm.
Thou shalt not kill, as they say. So, um, um, uh, so that's not a good thing. He said, "Is there any fast way to change it in a good way?" I said, "I have this fellow who came to me once, and he was for chiropractic when I was a chiropractor, and he was a good guy, except for well, he was a drug dealer basically. His aura didn't look that great, but he smashed himself up in a motorcycle accident, and he had a spine. He always paid in cash, right? So right.
Uh,
Happy to pay. Yeah. So I fix him up, and then a couple of years later, he comes back in, and I don't recognize this guy. And this time, he's been thrown out of the car. He was a passenger, and he's hovering above his body, watching them as they put the paddles on his heart and shocking him back into his body, getting his heart started again. And this guy, like half his bad karma disappeared or something. Like he's going to no more drug things. He's doing the becoming a psychologist and getting married and having a kid. And he's like I couldn't recognize him almost. So sometimes I think near-death experiences can drop some of the bad stuff. Of course, you can't use it as a technique because you'll kill yourself.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Some people do.
Yeah. I've had a few of those, but I also had the very first hypnosis session I had, which wasn't for any reason. It was a friend who took a hypnosis course and wanted to try it, and I was the only volunteer. And it was so profound because all I did was blow up, kind of, that classic. And then I floated out of my body and I could see everything below. And I just went into darkness and then into light. And I floated there for a while. But it was pure love. I mean,
Yeah,
love, high love, probably not even close to the highest love, but whatever I could perceive. And I came back without the fear of death.
right. It's
Yeah.
very interesting that a near-death experience can kick off a bunch and it puts you into a new life. Many
Yeah.
people go through profound changes when they have near-death experiences,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is wonderful.
Yeah.
So ultimately, I did a sort of technique on this guy to put him into a certain Ericksonian hypnosis state where I was tapping on his temples and basically talking into his unconscious to get him to de-traumatize his light body. I was basically killing time. And so within a few weeks, he went to his uh, uh, uncle, and he said, "I don't want to work for you," but because he was sure the guy was a slave master in another life, one of those guys. Okay, I'm not working for him.
My sister might have been.
Yeah, exactly. You can bet on it. You know, and family dynamics; those are some of the toughest. His whole life changed. He became a carpenter in a few 6 months. He had his own business with his cousin, and the uncle helped him get their license, contractor's license, and so that was the beginning of my work. You know, 22,000 sessions ago. All I do is work. 42 years, work, 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 work. Anyway,
Oh my gosh.
it's a beautiful thing to do. But the thing that's what I've learned from seeing so many people ask me, what do you see? Since you had this ability to see the aura so beautifully and profound. I mean, I've sent, I don't know, dozens of people to surgery for, tumors and stuff like that. It's really, like, how did you know this was a problem here? Well, this guy, he's where else he told me to go, that kind of stuff. So, um, it's a wonderful and beautiful life, but had a front row seat on what helps people and how to change the light body so you cease emanating. So, Nirodha is not the cessation of self, it's the cessation of the emanation of the samskaras. And then when you do all that, it frees up all this energy of the soul for you to manifest your dharma types like healer or mystic or artist or poet and there's so many opportunities in this life, you see. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
and so, but I was talking about some things that people can do every day that are useful for helping people to change their light body. And of course, the big one and the easy one is gratitude. Gratitude changes your light body. It gets rid of bad karma.
Yay.
The more grateful you are, the more the universe keeps showing up for you. It's like one-handed basket weaving. You walk down the street, I'm hungry, and there's your old friend. They haul you over and
It's so
fix you up,
true. Oh my
and
God.
or following the breadcrumbs of God, as my wife says. So it's like, that's the next breadcrumb. So then you're on the trail, on the path.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and so when you end the obstruction of the samskaras, when you cease vibrating, then it takes a lot of energy to vibrate a slave karma type into existence. I call
Isn't
them karma.
that interesting? Like, it's harder for us to suppress the truth of who we are, magnificent and full of possibility, harmony, potential, dreams, joy. It's harder to suppress that and to embody these things that we're familiar, we're used to, we're conditioned into. Crazy.
Totally important, totally big thing. So
Yeah.
really, the path of enlightenment is to more and more awaken in your light body. That's, your light body becomes more and more self-aware after years of meditation or some other lucky circumstances can do it. Forgiveness is really good too, but probably gratitude is one of the best in that regard.
Is it, I used to reject the idea of gratitude, not because I didn't want to say thank you or anything. I was trained well in that, but it felt like a command, like be grateful for what you have. That's all you deserve, and just be grateful. And even when like The Secret came out and people were having gratitude rocks and this whole thing, I just felt a little bit like, uh. And then I went to three Egyptian mystery schools, which is where I learned about the light body. So it was a light body structure, the sacred geometry structure, and then
Yeah,
activating it. And then I started the light body healing school. So the things we were doing was directly with that. But forgiveness, when I found the scale of consciousness from David Hawkins, Power versus Force,
right.
and I've adapted it to us from there. I don't think he has gratitude. I asked for, well, where's gratitude? So it's on mine. But it's literally like when you go to all the teachings through time, like thousands of years, 40 years ago, 100 years ago, underneath it is how do you live the wish fulfilled? Like, how do you live in the enlightened self, or how do you live in the future you want enough to, right, not keep repeating the patterns of what you don't want? How do you tune into that? And if you're always like, thank you, that feeling that when it is already here, like it's already happened without waiting to see it with your fear mind, right? There's a whole other level of what that state of gratitude does. And also, I'd love you to comment on forgiveness is another thing. Everybody's like struggling with forgiveness. And when you look at the scale, if you go to the state of acceptance, the emotional body goes into forgiveness automatically. So it's more of of what have you seen with the idea of you just go, you give up fighting it, resisting it, blaming it, judging it, craving it, right? And you come into just accepting what is, not that you're choosing it, but you're just saying, okay, then this concept of forgiveness happens in the emotional body. These are the things that are on that.
Right. They also will anchor in your light body if you do it enough, which is it takes a while to imprint the light body with negative. If everything we were afraid of manifests in our life, we would stop fear real quickly. And start.
Right.
Unfortunately, one of the biggest problems with our species uh, is vengeance. Vengeance is the biggest addiction.
Ooh, that's interesting.
So the counter opter for that is forgiveness, and that's why forgiveness is powerful, because it can somehow patch up the waters of um, vengeance. Vengeance is a pretty horrible thing, but it's very biggest addiction as a human being.
It's very interesting because if guilt and blame are, very, very low on the scale, they're right after shame.
Right.
You've
Yeah.
got blame and guilt, and that's where people, well, we see everybody doing that. It's them, it's them, it's them, it's them, it's them. Then you don't have any power to change.
You're a victim, and so like one of the things about our species is about taking responsibility. And like Adam goes to God, and Adam's like pissed off. He's like, God, we love you. Thank you so much. Beautiful garden here. Tree of life, fruit, delicious. Thank you so much. We're, feeding us all the time. Thank very much. But small problem. Small problem. A tree of knowledge of good and evil. Fruit just falling on the ground over there. Smells good. You did make us to crave variety a bit, and it's just going to waste. I mean, why not have why couldn't we just eat some of that too? And if you didn't want us to eat that, why didn't you put it outside the garden?
Yeah,
I'm sorry, God. That's not the real complaint here. I mean, it's after all, it's Eve. I mean, look at her. She's a knockout. Forgive me for having these desires of which you made me to have.
right?
Yeah, right. Like forgive
Yeah,
me for these desires of it. And we were good though. Things were going good. And then you put the old serpent in there, and and Eve, ate, and now I'm in, like, okay, God, you set us up. You set us up. So which is completely Adam would have had a right to say such a thing. So uh, the question is why didn't Adam go to God and say that he didn't want to be God's victim? The only recourse is to take responsibility. You did ask this, and I agreed, and so what I'm saying. It's like I messed up, okay? So we're the only animal that can take responsibility for our actions. And I would
Mhm.
say that we have trouble managing our emotions sometimes. We have trouble managing our lives. We have trouble managing our thoughts. Most people, I said, what do they think? What that person think about? Oh, they're full of dark fantasies. I can tell. The dark fantasies. Dark fantasies seem to be a big addiction too. So, uh,
Hmm.
um, so what I try to uh, communicate is that you don't have to keep repeating the same patterns over and over and over again. It's not school, it's not a lesson. It's karma. You're not a bad person, you're not a failure, but if you take responsibility for what's happening to you, then you have power over it, and you're not God's victim. Like the animals are just God's victims, basically, like whatever, so.
So does this fit into the idea? Because one of my favorite, I'm writing a book about the Mayan mysteries and the ancient Mayan perceptions of things, and they say that we live on a planet of mirrors, and there's nowhere that you can look that is not a reflection of you. And I think you said earlier something about the soul. You bring what's reflected back to you. It sounded like exactly that, where if you're out there telling the mirror, why are you doing that? And why are you doing it? I'm not smiling till you smile. Right. And then you're always going to be, so taking responsibility is realizing that's a reflection of you. And that if you want to change your life or and everything around you, if you don't like war, then look inside here. And that's what you're talking about, right? Like look in here
Absolutely.
instead of
It's all an
looking out
inside
there.
job. Everything
Yeah.
inside, and uh we're only looking at ourselves. God is looking at God's self through us. There's a famous saying by the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, that I was a buried. He's speaking as if he's God. This is a special report. It's not the Quran, but it's a special report. He said, I was a buried treasure longing to be known. So I made all creation that I might be discovered.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Well, I'm going to look at the
So,
recording and write
so
that down. Everybody
our
needs to
job
write
as
that down.
being a human being is really about uh, trying to help God discover who God is. Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
And
And we hear that that helped me a lot with a lot of the painful things that I've been through in my life, my daughter dying and different things, everybody has these, is to understand that like I'm not being punished, I'm not bad, I'm not trying to pay that back. I have a lot of slave torture and that good stuff was part of my a lot of my feelings about myself, but that the idea is that I'm here with the gift of experiencing something and feeding it back. I always imagine I'm the deep sea diver with the tube.
yeah.
I'm down here and God's up there, right, with the tube of the air, and I can't see what spirit knows. I don't see the big picture. I'm in it. I'm here to experience it, and what a blessing that is.
Yes, I think that's a great blessing of life, and this is, recalls to me the way that karma gets formed is by identification. So
Mhm.
say somebody's walking down the street and they drunk or something, and he said, "Well, your hair is ridiculous," or something like that, and it says something mean, and of
Yeah, yeah,
course, instead you know it's your glory, right? But so some drunk on the street, it's hard to identify that with that.
yeah,
Maybe somebody you really admired and loved, though, if they said something like that, it might be hurtful.
yeah.
So identification is the root of a lot of this impressions. Um, uh, we're not our samskaras, the things that happen to us, the stories about us, all those things are not who we are. Rumi said that all universes are bound, but the heart of the human being is infinite you
Ah,
know and so there's a boundless freedom of beingness in what it means to take on a body and be a human being and project ourselves into this reality that has all kinds of apparent limitations, but ultimately we don't have to become identified with all these things. And
ah.
samskaras and karmas are the things that make us identified with our circumstances and conditions, you know.
Exactly. I am bad instead of, oh, that thing I just did, that's not so good. I think I won't do that again. Instead of I'm bad.
Everything happening for us, nothing to us.
Do it. Yes.
Yeah, see, it's all happening for us.
All right. Yeah.
Um,
And thankfully we hear that all the time now. It's becoming
yeah,
more a part of the consciousness and it helps a lot of I've been there a while now, but it took me decades of my life, It's like, no, this is not helping me. This is not helping me. Yes, it is. Oh, everything if someone comes to me and say my whole life's falling apart, depending on how sensitive they are, I'll say, congratulations.
right,
Yay, now something can really happen in your life,
right,
if you let
exactly.
go of who you were. So, well, do you have a few minutes to do a little karma clearing for us or something?
Oh, sure, of course, I'd love to. So, with several approaches, but a sort of general antibiotic, here for all difficult karmas, is what I call the karma clearing, karma healing prayer. And so, first of all, you just want to bring the presence of your heart to this practice. That's your nia, your intention. And I identify with my true self, my divine nature, which is beyond all form, and I shine brightly and radiantly. And I fill myself with love, kindness, compassion. I have tremendous gratitude, thankfulness for my life, for my journey, for all that I am, and for all those who come in connection with me. I am grateful. I want to end all karmas that have bound me in patterns that have made me feel trapped or limited the expression and the beauty and freedom of my soul so that I can now be absolutely free from all of the qualities of the karmas in every area of my life, all karmas of ill health or difficulty with my physical being, with survival, all karmas of being mistreated, abused, victimized, or hurt, leave me. I'm feeling grateful for who I am, for my path, and all that I am learning and growing. I have a growth relationship with this universe. I want to end the samskaras, the patterns that have kept me in states of limitation, of love, of relationship issues, of all qualities of work and purpose, and my destiny can all flow together with earning money and establishing myself in this plane of existence. This too is my home for now. I accept my incarnation. I come fully empowered into this incarnation and use the agency of my soul to end the samskaras and the undesirable repetitive patterns that have prevented me from flowering into the fullness of my soul's knowledge, understanding, and being and bliss. I'm full of peace and joy, the brightness of my soul. I call upon the power of the Great Spirit, masters, saints, and prophets, personal guides, guardian angels, and all truly benevolent, kind sources of help in this universe. With tremendous gratitude, I receive help and I'm thankful for following this path. And now I am ending these samskaras in all past, present, and future lives, abiding in my own self, my true divine nature. I am whole, free, and awake. I shine brightly and radiantly. I shine brightly and radiantly. There.
Wonderful. Well, thank you. Thank you. Ooh, wonderful. So if I don't know if you still work this way, but I was when I did that first session with you, I think it was like 13 years ago, maybe.
Probably, yeah.
And at the end of our session, you did something like this, very personal, like you said, and you had me listen to it, repeat it over and over. Yeah. So I was thinking that, that would be very beneficial for people with what you just did to repeat, that
Yes,
and listen to it and speak it and say it.
right. Absolutely. Yeah, it was 2014. I still have your paper.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
So much stuff is resolved. You're so good now. Your life is so wonderful.
It is. It is. Thank you. Yeah, I was collapsing when I came to you. I literally thought if I didn't leave Texas in the next few days, I was gonna die, but there was nothing physically wrong with me. And that's why I told Al, I said, I don't know why I gotta get out of here. I have to leave. I have to leave. And remember the many things you were like, well, you got this, there's this, and here's your mom, and here's your
Yeah.
uh, and it's like you said, it unfolds through your life, right? And it's seeing it, accepting it, um, as part of you that has wisdom, that's a doorway maybe to, do you see it that way too, as a doorway to what you wish for, not to ignore it, but to go into it?
Yeah, there's a special state of consciousness in Sufism called mushahida, the great witnessing.
Ooh.
And and these concepts are subtle, but it's a formless practice, meaning it's not some actual practice that you do that's got a formula to it. It's heuristic. It's not algorithmic. You can't apply an algorithm and get there. And it's a very important practice. But mushahida, so from a first person perspective, is like everything that just goes on subjectively inside you. I have a first person perspective, and you do right now. But then we also simultaneously have a we space, a second person perspective.
Um,
Um, Later on, as you go through the day, you might reflect back on some things that we talked about. This would be a third person perspective of our conversation, you see.
oh, wow. Yeah.
A fourth person perspective is when you begin to pick out the archetypes that were coming forth, the meeting of two mystics, having a conversation of suhbet, or a soul conversation, a spiritual conversation that reveals and to each other and to the audience these qualities and principles and things that are very good. And that's fourth person perspective. Mushahida, when you see it, you actually transform it. It's a little bit like Ho'oponopono. I'm
Mhm.
sorry, I love you, please forgive me, thank you. That's one version of it. I learned it from kind of being deeply connected to deity, and that represents the quality of compassion and mercy. And so, so the bad stuff on TV is an opportunity to help others transform. I don't um, seek it out as some sort of uh, dopamine hit or something like that. I don't have dark fantasies.
Yeah, neat. No, no,
They're
thankfully.
gone. Dark fantasies have disappeared long ago. I have another kind of thing that I call the sun in the heart, which is like when I wake up in the morning, it's brighter inside than it is outside. you
Ooh,
know, and
lovely.
that's kind of a state that took me over quite some time ago now, maybe, in the late uh, 20, before 2010, I think. And but those feelings, those qualities, those experiences are experiences of tremendous effulgence. And there are different stations of rest. When Jesus said, "In my house there are many mansions," the word was makam. Makam are different places of spiritual rest.
Ah,
And
yeah.
and so I have several of those, and one of them that eats the difficulties of life is called kalender, which is the root word for calendar of all things. And
Oh,
kalender means moments, and a Sufi state of kalender is actually everything delights. Everything delights. Oh, look at that. Oh, this is so delightful. And it's been so delightful to see you again and be with you again and all
no.
these things. And um,
Oh,
life is going on, and you're doing so very well with everything. I'm happy and full of what they call mudita, sympathetic joy for your achievements and your continued growth into becoming more and more of who you are. Um, it's has been a lot of changes in the last decade or here a little more.
yeah,
and,
yeah,
and
yeah.
things have really moved along, and I think you're feeling the wonder and awe and tremendous capacity of all that. Yeah.
Mm,
Mm.
mm. Oh, I love that. Thank you. Oh my gosh, I delight and joy. So before we close, and thank you. This is just so juicy and
Thank
delicious.
you.
I love this so much. Share about your Rumi app and anything else you have coming up.
Oh yeah, so I'm busier than I've ever been. We have tr managed to translate the entire works of Rumi, all of his over let's see, there's 55,000 lines in the Masnavi and 90,000 lines in the Shamsi Tabriz, and and all these other works of the great arch poet Rumi, Mevlana. Uh, and I've been associated with people that are part of that order and studied Sufism well, I've been reading Rumi since I was 18. So, and I'm 75. So, a long time. So, um,
Oh,
I always wanted to make, uh, his teaching more accessible. And he's misquoted a lot or kind of used, Rumi said this. Well, Rumi didn't say that. He said a lot of things, but he didn't say that. You know what I'm saying? So we've got all the original, straight from the Farsi, translated, all those things. You basically be Rumi in your pocket. And what you can do is it will flash up a poem every day, and you can open that up and to a little teaching that interprets and talks about where that particular line came from a certain place and what was meant, and so on and so forth. Also, there's like Rumi journeys that, like there's 52 journeys that's going to be in there, one for a week, and each, like grief or love or fear or whatever, it's like all these journeys that help you work through. They're 7 days long each one, so you just read a little snippet, meditate, read a little, stuff like that. Um,
wonderful.
and also, um, we're working on putting together a chat bot that is basically Rumi. All of his works are being fed in all the works of all the things that have been written about him and all the Sufi symbology is all integrated into the entire machinery of this. I've been working on this for 3.5 years.
That's amazing. Well, what I really appreciate is that you're not just gathering what other people say, but you are concerned about the source and the authenticity and the most valuable translation, let's say, of from source through somebody. I mean, if you've spent that long, right, 60 years or something reading Rumi,
Yeah, it's been
beautiful.
a major thing. And so this will kind of resurrect. And so we're creating not just something that throws up a quote, but actually what we're trying to do is create Rumi as a spiritual, we call it a spiritual companion app.
Oh, nice,
And so
nice.
that you can kind of have a companionship with this wisdom guy who lived long ago, 800 years later, and somebody, and so I got a really good team. Uh, the doors seem to be opening, for this. And if you want to sign up for the beta run so that you
Yeah,
can get, help
yeah.
us build the quality of it and get your feedback and stuff. It's really easy. It's uh, just go to Rumi.app.
Oh, really? Okay,
Yeah.
wow. Okay, and then you can
And
get on the
right now
beta.
that's
Oh,
the
I'm gonna totally do that.
landing page. That's the landing page, Rumi.app. Um, we got the domain, and
That's
you can
fantastic.
sign up for the beta run, and we'll send out a test slide or send out the first things, and you can check out and see how it goes. And if you have feedback, we're very interested in that. This is really a tool at so many different levels. It's a scholar's tool for people that have been really interested. We're going to have the full Farsi, eventually we'll have it so that you can go to sleep listening to Rumi poetry, or eventually you can join these what we call self-bet, which is spiritual art of spiritual conversation in Sufism, and that's where the teacher and stuff, and Rumi will be the teacher, so to speak, and we can
Wow.
ask questions and stuff like that. So this is the first time that nothing has ever been built like this before. Basically, I don't know anyone who could build this, you know, uh, except for somebody who's been steeped in the teachings for a long, long time, and
Yeah.
also, not afraid to like put yourself out in that regard. So, and
Oh,
there'll be a free version, and there'll be the upgraded version, which please buy it so we can make a living at this.
yeah, absolutely. Well, that's the thing
Yeah,
is,
it'll be cheap enough.
passion projects, and to have a way of donating or supporting
Right.
you too. So,
Yeah.
all right, and then we'll have that link here, and then Karma Doctor spelled out
Yeah.
.com.
karmadoctor.com. If you want to have a session with me, I'm still doing lots of sessions. I enjoy them so much. They're life-changing. They really change your life and help you to understand so many things about yourself. They're amazing in that regard. Um,
And
also,
you have the school?
I also have Karma School, which I'm
Karma School, yeah.
yep, getting ready. I'm moving everything over to Kajabi, so it's going to take a while to do that. But then I'm going to start a new cohort. So in the
Yeah.
next 3 or 4 months, get a new cohort. Maybe it'll take less time than that, actually.
Good. Well, thank you so much for everything you're
Thank
doing,
you,
who you
Nan. I'm so
are.
happy to see you again.
Oh, what you've lived. Like, it's so interesting because the background is one of those pictures,
Yeah.
right? When you move, there's a light that comes up right over your crown, and it looks like lightning in the clouds, and it just
And
goes poof poof poof, like
That's
your crown is just lighting up.
that's funny. Yeah.
It was
The universe
wonderful.
is playing with me, making me look good.
Yeah.
But this is the Rio Grande River Valley behind me, and it's really amazing. 9,000 feet high, so, and the Santa de Cristo Mountains north of Taos, about 14 miles. In the summer, you can go and visit the Lama Foundation. It's a sacred place, a joyful place to go. It's meant a lot there, and so yeah.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, and let's
Thank
stay in
you.
touch. And
We'll stay in
appreciate it
touch.
so much. So big hugs and
Big
wonderful
hug to
blessings.
you. I enjoyed every minute. It was been wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody. Make sure you check in with what we have coming next. Check in on our Sacred Feminine pilgrimages. We're going to be at California in the North Woods. We're going to Glastonbury, and we're going to go visit the Olmec very soon with some of the elders from the Olmec. So all these ancient wisdom, all these truths you've shared with us, all these wonderful wisdoms. I love to hear how all the different cultures was basically saying a very similar thing, and it's all beauty, deliciousness, and what kind of joy did you say? Something joy.
Um, that's a good. I had an old friend. He's passed away. And he said, "Unbearable ecstasy, indefinitely prolonged."
Okay. Okay. I say yes to that. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Nan. Thank you so much. It was great to see you again.
Okay.
Okay. Big
Take
love to
care.
you and everyone. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.